Hey guys, Jim here with another video for you. This is 1980, 50 years in film. This is going to be a crazy year. We've got some of the greatest movies ever made, and we've got some of the worst movies ever made. But before we begin, as usual, if you like my content, if you like this video, if you like me, please give me a like and a subscribe. And please leave comments. Let me know about what your memories are of these movies. Which ones are your favorites? Which ones you've never heard of, if you have any questions, and therefore. So we're going to go with the usual format, with the exception of we are going to start off with The Elephant in the Room, 1980, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back. After 3 years of anticipating what would happen, we finally got what we thought would be the answers, and ended up leaving with more questions than we had than when we started. But you know what? Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars movie, period. I don't care what anybody else says. Empire Strikes Back is an incredible movie. Now we're going to go back to our normal format of starting off with comedies. The Immortal Blues Brothers, directed by John Landis, starring John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd. One of the greatest musical comedies of all time. I absolutely love the Blues Brothers. Next, one of my favorite comedies of all time again. I know I sound like a broken record, but Robert Zemeckis directed Used Cars, starring Kurt Russell and the late great Jack Warden, who plays two roles. Quite simply, I think this is one of the funniest movies of all time. I love Used Cars. And another great comedy from 1980, Cheech and Chong's next movie. This was the follow-up to Up in Smoke. I actually saw this on a double bill at the drive-in with Caddyshack, which I do own, but not on Blu-ray, so Caddyshack will not be in this video, but I'll never forget seeing Cheech and Chong's next movie in Caddyshack. I was 13. Next, My Bodyguard from Kino. It's a sweet movie. It's one of my movies from my childhood. There's a very young Matt Dillon up there. Solid movie. Next, from the Oh God collection, Oh God Book 2. This movie is hot garbage. That's why we won't talk about it anymore. And last and definitely least, probably the worst movie released that year. It's definitely the worst movie in my collection, Gorp. Again, the less said about this piece of trash, the better. So let's just forget about him. Now we go to greatness. With the drama, Raging Bull. Martin Scorsese masterpiece. Starring Robert De Niro in his Academy Award-winning role for Best Actor, Joe Pesci and Kathy Moriarty. Quite simply, it's one of the greatest movies of the 80s, period. Raging Bull's a masterpiece. Next, we have one of my favorite World War II movies of all time, The Big Red One, directed by Sam Fuller, starring Lee Marvin and Mark Hamill. This is an incredible World War II movie. I covered this a long time ago. I think it was on the first installment of my 5 movies to check out. It was either the first or the second one. I want to reiterate, check this movie out. It's incredible. Next, we have a Western directed by Walter Hill, The Long Riders. Great cast, great movie. Next, the late great Steve McQueen in his final film, The Hunter. It's not the best movie for him to go out on, but the man was an icon. And unfortunately, he passed away shortly after filming this movie. And again, the movie's not all that great, but Steve McQueen was great and always will be. Next, this is kind of a weird one. This is from my Lone Wolf and Cub box set. And what we're covering is Shogun Assassin. You can see right there, Shogun Assassin is an English dub re-edit of the first two Lone Wolf and Cub films, which are Sword of Vengeance and Baby Cart in the River Styx. They dubbed it in English. They added a keyboard-centric soundtrack to it. Doesn't make a lick of sense, but it's a lot of fun. However, instead of watching Shogun Assassin, get this box set because it's got all 6 of the original movies and Shogun Assassin. This is from Criterion. This is one of my favorite things in my entire collection. Okay, now we're going to shift gears. We're going to go to some sci-fi cheese for you. Battle Beyond the Stars. This is basically the Magnificent Seven reimagined as a space movie. And it's definitely a Star Wars ripoff. But you know what? I absolutely love this movie. It is so cheesy, but maybe it's nostalgia, but I will always love this movie. Want to talk cheesy sci-fi? How about Without Warning? Technically, this is a science fiction horror movie, but how could you be scared of something that looks like that? Look at that guy. I love it. This movie is not good, but it's an entertaining B movie. So, yeah. Speaking of entertaining B movies, we've got like 3 more coming. Bam, bam, bam. But first one, Alligator. This is my 4K Blu-ray combo from Scream Factory. I love this movie. I saw this theatrically. And I'll always love this movie. It's so stupid, but it is so entertaining. So, that's Alligator. Next, more sci-fi cheese. Humanoids from the Deep. This is my Scream Factory Steelbook. As you can see, you can get the full effect there. Love the Steelbook. Love that cheesy movie. Next, we have another one of my Steelbooks from Scream Factory, Motel Hell. And again, I love the artwork on these things. They're so good. Motel Hell is definitely a goofy movie, and it's a guilty pleasure, but I love it. Next, we have one of the scariest ghost stories ever. In my eyes, I think this movie's great. The Changeling with George C. Scott. This is a slow burn, but again, I think it's one of the best ghost stories ever. One of the scariest things ever is a ball bouncing down a flight of stairs, and as dumb as that sounds, trust me, in the context of the movie, it's terrifying. I love The Changeling. We go from ghosts to pirates. The Island, starring Michael Caine, based on the Peter Benchley novel, who also wrote Jaws and The Deep. Best thing about this movie is David Warner, as usual. He plays the lead pirate. Solid movie. Not great, but solid. Very bloody. So we go from ghosts and pirates to pirate ghosts. The Fog. That's a great steelbook. Classic John Carpenter movie. Love it. Now we've got some psychological horror for you. Fade to Black. This is a Vinegar Syndrome title. Windows. This is a Scream Factory title. Talia Shire. It's not that great of a movie, but it's okay. It's well made. Okay, now we're getting into the slashers. 1980 had a lot of them. First one, Terror Train, starring Jamie Lee Curtis and David Copperfield and Ben Johnson. And you know what? This movie's not that bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. And I love Jamie Lee Curtis. So, speaking of Jamie Lee, Prom Night. Leslie Nielsen co-stars in this. This is a Synapse title. This movie is bad. I'm sorry, it is. There's more disco in this movie than Saturday Night Fever. But again, it's part of that Jamie Lee Curtis slasher. She was the one of the original Scream Queens, and Prom Night was one of them. Another slasher movie, He Knows You're Alone. Another Scream Factory title. Again, not the best of movies. This one is most known for, right there, Tom Hanks. This was his feature film debut. He was on Bosom Buddies at the time, which was a sitcom. Or this was actually right before Bosom Buddies started. Okay, but the next three are truly iconic. First, we've got Brian De Palma's Dressed to Kill. I just did the ranking of Brian De Palma's filmography. This one clocked in at number 4. I absolutely love this movie. It's like an American Giallo. It's a classic. Next, the OG, the original, Friday the 13th. Poor Kevin Bacon. Friday the 13th is great. It started the franchise. We're going to be getting into lots of sequels in the next 8 years or so. But the original is still, it's a classic. Great effects work by Tom Savini. But last and certainly not least, in any way, shape, or form, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. Based on the Stephen King novel, of course, starring Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall. It's a classic. It's considered one of the greatest modern horror movies ever. And it certainly will not get an argument from me. I did a Stanley Kubrick ranking recently and a Stephen King ranking recently, so you can see where The Shining is in those filmographies. But either way, The Shining is an incredible movie, and it's an incredible way to end this edition. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. That was 1980. Lots and lots of horror movies. 1981, there will be more variety. So until then, have a great night, guys. We'll see you then.